U.S. and South Africa, where you have a brief moment of their national anthem is on a good, starry look here by Frankie Mitchell, who knows that at 31 years of age, this could be a last hurrah for him on a chance to get a title, even though he's 25-0. At 31, you have to start looking for all the opportunities that might come your way.
He can be well over the bridge, Sam. I think he knows it's his last shot. It's a well-kept secret. Maybe maturing like good wine. He's going to give it his best shot tonight. The officials tonight, Sam, you couldn't forget all about them. The supervisor from Italy, Mr. Pardino. Our referee is also from Italy, Mr. Orlando Lucia. Our judges are from Spain, Italy, and Venezuela.
Brian Mitchell, 29, 5'6", and again weighed in at 58.9 kgs at 129.5 pounds. 41-1-2 as he prepares to look for his 11th successful defense of his title in the junior lightweight division. Matter of fact, I was having a conversation. You take a good look at Frankie Mitchell awaiting the arrival of the champion from across the way. Harold Volbrick held his title as South Africa champion undefeated in 14 years. Almost an unbelievable record. Harold Volbrick, the one that works in the corner, the champion Brian Mitchell tonight. Mitchell again, very focused, and that's the key of the Mitchell success. Winning in 12 rounds over Jackie Beard last March, also here in Italy. In his last fight, training well, doing what he has to do, and now comes the moment of truth again. South Africans again, Jerry Ungabini getting an 8th round TKO, and if that's not enough, welcome Nichita gets his successful defense of his IBF title, also winning by a knockout in the 8th round on our doubleheader of championship fight tonight. And now this is the climax, our world title WBA Junior Lightweight Championship. And there's the bell as we're underway in round one. Frankie Mitchell will be in the red. Brian Mitchell will be in, of course, the colors of South Africa. And if you will allow us, we will refer to them as Frankie and Brian tonight. Obviously, both being Mitchells, we might give you a little confusion in referring to Mitchell this and Mitchell that. So it's Brian and also Frankie, if you will allow us that opportunity.
Mitchell Frankie, Mitchell Brian, Sam. Brian Mitchell said to me before the fight he thought Frankie will come out smoking to try and get on to him because he feels that Frankie won't last the distance. Let's see how it goes in the first round. No evidence yet that we're going to have a real smoking Frankie. He's there, but not as fast as he can come out as Brian thought he would do.
Brian, of course, you see in that crouching style, stays behind those gloves well. He'll have to tonight with that 72-inch reach of Frankie Mitchell as he tries to jab his way in. There's a good right hand thrown by the champ, an answering left-right combination by Frank Mitchell.
Crowd gone very quiet here with anticipation, Sam.
After the fireworks of those first two fights, I can imagine what they can expect here in the main event. Brian Mitchell is one of those fighters, and I know you get tired of us saying it in the first round. It is a feeling-out round for Brian Mitchell. He knows what Frankie Mitchell can do, but again, you just have to go in, see if the style has changed, see what punches he's able to get close to landing or does land, and then make your adjustments between the first and second round. Brian is doing what he has to do, and I think that's a key. He must fight his fight, not let Frankie dictate what he wants to do. And you see Brian Mitchell doing just that.
Before Brian Mitchell had your answer, he let go of a beautiful left, straight on the target.
Frankie Mitchell came in with a pretty good left of his own. Keep in mind now, we'll watch the right eye of Brian Mitchell. That's where he's had the problems with the cut. And again, you can see the scar tissue as you visit with him at the weigh-ins in the hotel and around this Italian city. And knows full well that he's got to protect that eye more than anything, but that left jab could be something that you'll have to watch very, very greatly here tonight.
The extra height there of Mitchell Frankie. So likely, I think that Frankie is going to be boring in with that head in the way that Jackie Beard used to do it.
You see Brian, defensive tactics, covering up as Frankie came in on top of it. This is round number one of a scheduled 12-round world title fight tonight. Brian, I know you, excuse me, Robin, I know you've been all over the world to watch Brian Mitchell and all of the other champions, and there's nothing like a world championship night.
Yeah, Brian looks in fine form. He's sorting it out, as you say. He's got a computer-like boxing brain. He knows where to punch. He knows exactly what's going to happen. He changes his program as he goes through the first couple of rounds. This is the normal Brian Mitchell start.
Closing seconds of round one, and Frankie Mitchell caught Brian just momentarily off balance. Brian reached backwards, almost touched the canvas, which would have been a knockdown. And now Frankie Mitchell right on top of him to end round one.
Okay, let's return the studio to a short commercial section.
Gentlemen, second out.
Welcome back then to round 2 of Brian Mitchell, the WBA Junior Lightweight Champion, against the challenger from the United States, his namesake Frankie Mitchell. Sam, this first round, even Stephen.
Had to be even as we stop action momentarily, and now as they got a second out of the corner, we're back to action here. I feel it had to be a good even round. Brian landed some punches, but near the end of round 1, I thought that Frankie Mitchell got some solid punches in on the champion and may have kind of stolen that to an even round in round number 1. Both fighters feeling out, but also landing some punches, I thought, in round 1 as they fight in round 2 here.
Well, right at the end of round 1, they said Frankie Mitchell changing his style.
Indeed, we pointed out early on in our pre-fight analysis that I'm not sure if Brian has fought a fighter that can switch as easily as Frankie Mitchell is able to do. And as you picked up at the end of that first round, Robin, he did switch to the southpaw, and that's when he caught Brian with a good solid right hand that kind of caught Brian certainly off balance.
Frankie Mitchell coming forward there, a couple of good solid shots, rights and lefts.
Very confident Frankie Mitchell right now, always a confident Brian Mitchell. Good solid hand by Brian as he'll dig that right hand to the body. But again, he's got to get underneath that long, long jab of Frankie Mitchell.
Brian Mitchell, of course, got a great record, almost 50% KO in his 40-odd fights. Frankie Mitchell with 10 KOs out of 25, but still unbeaten.
You see good foot movement by Frankie Mitchell to get away from the charging Brian Mitchell. And Brian, again, has already got a little swelling on the outside of that right eye as we took a look at him as he was staring right at us. There's that left jab, 72-inch reach, and about a 4 to 5 inch reach over the champion Brian Mitchell does Frankie. Lucia will be very important in this fight because I think a referee in a world title fight really has to know the fighters also. Does a fighter fight well out of a clinch, or will they clinch and hold? Is that his style? And I certainly know that Mr. Lucia has been in this situation before, knows these two fighters, and will know more about them before this one's over.
Well, Frankie Mitchell opening up here, Sam, whilst we're mentioning that. Some good shots going from Frankie Mitchell. Brian Mitchell dodging most of them, but being caught by that good left.
This is a big Frankie Mitchell round right now. Brian Mitchell slowly but surely trying to figure out once again as he got hit with the right hand walking in.
As you were saying, referees can play a big part in making a successful world title fight. In the last fight we had in Grosseto, Italy, we had another Italian referee, Mr. Priami, who was only relatively inexperienced, 7 fights, and we had a lot of problems in terms of Brian being able to get going. Mr. Priami kept stopping the fight, so let's see how Mr. Lucia does. He seems to be more flexible in what he does.
Well, roughly about 15 seconds to go in this second round. And it has been a big round for Frankie Mitchell of the U.S. against the champion Brian Mitchell. They'll have to readjust their game plan as we'll rest between rounds of 2 and 3. That's the end of the second round here, and again a big one by Frankie Mitchell, who goes up slightly on the scorecard.
As you see the slow-mo here with Frankie Mitchell putting in some good shots against Brian Mitchell. Brian backing off, learning something from that encounter. Over in the Frankie Mitchell corner, a little bit of concern there with the eye. Slight swelling on the left eye. And of course, in the Mitchell corner too, they're tending to the right eye, the one which gives Brian lots of problems. But nothing serious as yet for both fighters on the eye, just a little bit of puffiness, a little bit of swelling. As we go into round 3, Sam, we had Frankie Mitchell there taking that round by the odd point.
Well, he did indeed, and I thought he was very sharp in doing so, something Brian has got to take away from him. And he comes right at him, but Frankie Mitchell again still using that good straight left jab to get in and throws the right behind it. By the way, if we do have a cut in either corner, as Robin alluded to early on, we've got 2 of the best in the world. Eddie Aliano is working in the corner of Frankie Mitchell, while Ace Murata is in the corner of the champion Brian Mitchell tonight. And again, still with the puffiness over the right eye. They'll watch that closely. Frankie Mitchell coming in with a combination. Brian balled underneath with the left right, but Frankie Mitchell still getting that over-the-top right hand in.
Well, Frankie Mitchell showing himself to be very strong at this stage. Some good shots going in. He's not frightened of the champion. He's going to take that championship away if he can.
31 years old, Frankie Mitchell. We alluded, and now a cut is opened up over the left eye of Brian Mitchell. So Mitchell now cut early, and it's not over the right, but it's over the left eye, where they really weren't a lot of concern on early on in the corner. But now Brian's got a problem here in the third.
This is the type of situation, Sam, which Brian relishes in. He knows he's cut. He may step up the gas himself to try and do more very quickly, but he's not frightened a bit. He can control himself. He's got a great man in the corner. Brian will just think his way through it, take his time, and try and keep up the pressure where he can.
The one thing that will be of concern of Brian Mitchell, and just looking at the colors, he got caught with the right hand and countered with a good combination, is that the blood is on the outside of the eye. So the blood is literally going down the cheekbone and not into the eye, which is the biggest problem a fighter has to contend with. It is on the eyelid there, and that's a dangerous spot.
Both fighters, of course, using Everlast gloves tonight. Brian Mitchell normally uses Rays, which are believed to cut more than Everlast. So, interesting combination of facts here. They've changed the gloves to stop the cuts, and Brian Mitchell opens up very early.
Frankie Mitchell again, maybe on his way to his second consecutive round of big punches as he lands a combination. Brian did counter with one of his own, and now Mitchell, I believe, has a cut over both eyes as Frankie Mitchell comes in on top of him. No, the right eye is still okay.
And Mitchell turns his head away to stop that boring business. He's trying to protect those eyes.
It'll be quite obvious. It'll be the determination of Brian Mitchell if he hopes to maintain his title tonight here in Italy. Because Frankie Mitchell indeed did come to fight.
Well, as Mitchell expected, Frankie Mitchell was trying to pull on the pressure in the early rounds. Quiet first round. The second and third, he's really come into it.
Brian Mitchell trying to keep the challenger off. There you see Frankie Mitchell missing. Brian stepping away, comes in on top of him with that boring right hand of his. Steps underneath the long jab and then caught with the right hand.
Both fighters here, Sam, got a good bit of venom in those punches. Some good shots going in.
Frankie Mitchell landing a right hand as we near the end of round number 3, and there it is.
Okay, from Aosta here in Northern Italy, and Mitchell versus Mitchell, we return to the studio for a short commercial break.
Gentlemen, second out.
Welcome back then to Mitchell versus Mitchell in this Nashua-sponsored tournament. Nashua saving you time, saving you money, putting you first. Sam, round 3 there.
Well, round 3 again, another Frankie Mitchell round. The champion now down a couple of points on our unofficial card, and let me make it perfectly clear, it is unofficial. 3 judges without the referee scoring. We'll be scoring this fight tonight. As a matter of fact, the other WBA rules that are in effect tonight, there is a 10-point must system. A mandatory 8 count will be taken on any knockdown. A 3 knockdown rule here in Italy will be applied by the WBA. There is no standing 8, and a bell cannot save a fighter except for the last round in a WBA title fight.
Brian Mitchell here in a real fight with his namesake Frankie Mitchell. Frankie Mitchell really pushing punches forward.
Robin, you made comment in between the rounds that Brian does not have the sharpness that we've seen before, but I have to give a lot of credit to Frankie Mitchell. With his switching and brawling tactics, Brian has really just got to try to out-muscle him, try to get inside.
Well, Mitchell camp, having seen his last fight against Pee Wee Parker, I believe,
Yes.
thought that this boy was a stronger opponent than many people believe.
He won a 10-rounder out in Reno. That came on May the 20th. As a matter of fact, he's had some very good wins, has Frankie Mitchell. He defeated Robert Byrd, who was one of the up-and-coming stars in the Sugar Ray Leonard camp out of the Maryland area. Then the Pee Wee Parker fight, and an earlier fight against Mariano Lamentis. He won that fight back in October of '89 and had been promised a shot at John Molina. But the Molina camp reneged after they saw Frankie Mitchell fight, and he missed a golden opportunity. But now it is called again, and he's in there strongly against Brian Mitchell. Molina, of course, was the champion after defeating Tony Lopez, and then Lopez later regained that title by defeating Molina. Lopez very easily could be the opponent of either one of the winners coming out of this fight tonight.
Don't forget, coming up in Emmett on October 26th in the early hours, the undisputed heavyweight title shot of the world featuring the champ James Buster Douglas and challenger Evander Holyfield. This stage around about 04:30 in the morning, October 26th on Emmett Supersport.
Robin Market down 4th round. We're now seeing Frankie Mitchell start to backpedal a little more. So maybe Brian Mitchell has now started to get his ball-ring style as Frankie, for the first time in the fight, has gone backwards a bit here in round 4.
We did say, Sam, despite all the hustle and bustle from Frankie Mitchell, we thought he might blow his tanks by round 4 or 5 because we know he's struggled to come down to this weight limit. He was way over.
By the way, my apologies for not making mention of it earlier. The cut over the left eye of the champion has been successfully closed for the moment. Ace Murata, a sensational cut man, and to keep your fighter in a fight, and he's done so here in the 4th round of Brian Mitchell. Only a couple of seconds left to go in the 4th round.
Cutman, of course, worth the weight in gold. They get a percentage of the purse, but having a good cut man is all you need to keep you winning. Here we go then, into round 4. Let's return to the studio for a short commercial section.
Gentlemen, second out.
Welcome back then to Austin, Italy, with Brian Mitchell against Frankie Mitchell. We're going into round 5. We have round 4 there for Sam.
Brian Mitchell. Brian, I thought, fought very well in that. And again, mark it down in the 4th round when he started to back up Frankie Mitchell. Now, does Frankie Mitchell suddenly come back and take the advantage? No, the champion with a big right hand backs him up again.
And Mitchell decided, I think, to see what this man's really made of. He's taking some stick from him, now he's going to go forward.
By the way, we had made mention when we arrived here in Italy that they had a 15-foot ring, which would not favor the IBF champion, that of course being Welcome Nikita, but it would favor a Brian Mitchell. They had to bring it up to standard to 18 feet, and Brian would like to have a little shorter ring to try to cut off the very good movement of Frankie Mitchell. Frankie now starting to find that Brian Mitchell's becoming a little bit more elusive target to try to hit here in this 5th round. By the way, with that round 1 by Brian Mitchell, we have tightened it back down unofficially to a 1-point fight with Frankie Mitchell slightly ahead.
Brian Mitchell getting nicely into the inside now. Some good combinations there, lefts and rights to Frankie Mitchell's face.
I think Brian Mitchell is finding out one thing about Frankie Mitchell. He said, yeah, I'd like to be on his chest, but wait a minute, this guy's not bad in here. As he, even though with that long reach, is still able to throw some good, sharp, short punches.
Frankie Mitchell, of course, the little bump coming up on the left arm. We saw it about a round ago, but it's there and it's starting to swell. Brian Mitchell's head, in fact, is catching Frankie Mitchell just right below the eye there.
By the way, Brian is going to have to try to catch up with a guy that was one of the stars on his high school track teams in the 100, 200, and 440 relay teams. They won state championships in his home state of Georgia before moving to Philadelphia, where he now fights. So if he gets in a foot race, it will not be Brian Mitchell's night.
Brian Mitchell, of course, trying to equal a record which exists from the 1925 era of 11 successful defenses of a junior lightweight title.
Only Galaxy, who is a WBA champion, has 13 successful defenses. Tops that of Brian Mitchell here in South Africa. And I tell you what, the 4th round and now into the 5th, Brian Mitchell has started to turn this fight a bit. Mitchell
Camp saying, come on, moving forward. I can see the towel going. Get in there, Brian. and let Frankie Mitchell back off the ropes, but the corner didn't want that. They wanted Mitchell to go on pressing and pressing.
By the way, Brian's wife, Kathy, is here. The two youngsters are back at the hotel watching the Ninja Turtles or something. They're not having to watch their father fight this late in the evening. But Brian Mitchell now in the 5th round has started to turn it back his way as the challenger. Frankie Mitchell almost had his own way, particularly in rounds 2 and 3. Brian already with some welts in the back of his right shoulder, which indicates some big right hands of Frankie Mitchell have caught the wrong spot as the bell ends, and Brian Mitchell has come back to even this fight up.
Okay, Sam is returning to the studio for a short commercial break. He's changed from being dull to sharp, Mitchell said.
Yeah, it was like the 4th round. Yeah, it was a total change.
Second out. En la sexta ripresa, il 6th round.
Welcome again to round 6 with Brian Mitchell, the WBA junior lightweight champ here in Ars, Italy, defending his title for the 11th time against his namesake Frankie Mitchell, United States. Sam, round 5, have you scored out?
I scored that again with Brian Mitchell, the champion, coming on strong. And isn't it ironic? We had talked about him after the 3rd round, saying, hey, the champ does not look as sharp as we've seen him. And the 5th and 6th rounds, the 4th and 5th rounds are very solid rounds for him. And now Frankie Mitchell has come out, and he has started to come with a vengeance here in this round. What a fight this is going to be tonight, scheduled for 12 rounds, the WBA Junior Lightweight Championship.
I think the Frankie Mitchell corner have realized that Brian was slowly getting on the ascendant there and have said, come on, step up the gas. Exactly the same way that Welcome Cheetah's opponent, Lopez, was told to do the same and paid the penalty for it 3 rounds later.
Well, the unfortunate part for Brian Mitchell, unlike the Machida, who found that Lopez just didn't have anything to back up that try to get on his horse, Frankie Mitchell certainly shows he's got the tools to give Brian some more trouble here.
He's going to Brian's body, he's trying for Brian's head. There's a good shot in here to Brian Mitchell.
Brian Mitchell starting to duck in underneath that jab, which is no longer as effective as it was. It's almost relegated to just a wielding left hook by Frankie Mitchell. No longer a weapon to keep Brian Mitchell away. You see Brian Mitchell scoring with a left jab, and he's got the shorter of the 2 reaches.
Good left there to Frankie Mitchell's face and Brian Mitchell.
Brian Mitchell certainly got the wake-up call at the end of the 3rd round. Of course, 4 and 5 has been the champion.
I think both corners are playing a very good game of chess here, Sam. They've both instructed their fighters in a very positive way.
And both are willing to give up the pawns to get to something bigger and better. 1 minute left to go in round number 6.
Halfway stage of this
along
fight.
with Robin Welch tonight. We've got a good one for you.
Got our 3rd great fight of the evening, Sam. We've had a wonderful bit here this evening.
What a night. International card here in Aosta, Italy. Vying for the Winter Olympics in 1998, and this is a sports crazy town, and they're loving it as Brian Mitchell and Frankie Mitchell are toe-to-toe.
Frankie Mitchell trapped in the corner. Brian Mitchell gave him a few good shots, but Frankie Mitchell strong enough to just stalk out and get Brian away.
This is kind of a tough round to score. This is a very even round as far as I'm looking at it here, Robin, because both of the fighters in the ring are doing very well. And makes this tournament, as we ended here tonight with our main event, a very successful one.
We were talking about angles earlier on with the Welcome Cheetah fight. I don't feel that Mitchell's using enough angles here,
No.
Sam.
Good right hand thrown by Frankie Mitchell. He throws another right hand, and Brian momentarily backed up as the bell sounds to end round 6. Wow, what an
Almost
exchange
felt that
by
Brian
both.
Mitchell staggered there. Good round there for Frankie Mitchell.
Both fighters, I thought, came on strong. I've got it even. And I think it's just that way in the fight as well. And officially, here's Ace Murata. Along with, of course, Harold Bulbrick applying ice on the other side. Plenty of water breaks here for Frankie Mitchell on the opposite side of the ring.
Well, I'm not going to fight with you over the score, Sam. I think we've got a good enough fight in the ring, so let's keep it there.
That's right.
We've got a real humdinger here. Two good fighters. Frankie Mitchell, the challenger, feeling this is his chance. He's not going to give in. Subdue for a couple of rounds, come back again. And Mitchell camp looking a little bit concerned, I think. Harold Fulbrick there talking to Brian, trying to motivate him. Ace Murata kind of working on the eye. Murphy Griffiths also there kneeling, talking quietly. Let's see a bit of the action from that round.
You see some digging inside and a big overhand right by Frankie Mitchell, and lo and behold, he landed it twice. I tell you what, actually Mitchell had not done anything to that right there. That could have stolen the round on the judge's card. He scored it even, but Frankie Mitchell could have stolen it with those two punches.
So at this stage, we go in the 7th round, a very close fight.
Well, it's dead even on our unofficial card. Again, the judges could have slightly favored Frankie Mitchell because of those two punches you saw. Brian Mitchell right now back on his horse, just trying to catch his breath for a moment. As Frankie Mitchell starting to charge and throw some good punches.
Frankie Mitchell is poking out that left. He's getting through that left there. Last round it was Mitchell in the early stages coming through the left. Frankie Mitchell, deceptive fighter this Sam. He looks though he's gone. He seems to be able to come back. He has some great reserves of strength.
What an ebb and flow fight this has been. First of all, Brian Mitchell does not look like the champion with Christmas early on, and Frankie Mitchell really pummels him away in the first 3 rounds. Then Brian comes on strong in rounds 4 and 5. Round 6, almost a technical or just an absolute draw. And now Brian Mitchell has changed tactics early in the round by bobbing, weaving, stepping away early on, and now starts to stand and fight in the middle of the ring. Interesting change of events here in this championship fight. And another big left hand by Brian Mitchell.
Mitchell's eyes, of course, standing up very well for the early scare to his corner. They really treated it well. Not a problem since round 2.
Again, it was on the eyelid, and that's the most dangerous spot, as again, Frankie Mitchell lands a good right hand.
Well, Brian Mitchell, they're able to kind of take those scurrying over his shoulders, slipping and sliding very nicely. Mitchell still stalking there, his namesake Frankie. Frankie Mitchell managed to tune out of it again, Sam.
You know, Robert, I'm a little surprised with a 25-0 record by Frankie Mitchell with some of the punches he's landed tonight, but he has but 10 knockouts. He looks like he possesses some very strong punches that the champion has had to withstand tonight.
He's a strong contender.
He's ranked number 5 by the WBA, number 4 by the WBC, and number 7 by the IBF is Frankie Mitchell. And, of course, the champion, Brian Mitchell. 11 defenses of his title. This is number 11, which would tie the record in his class.
It was the last fight that Frankie Mitchell had against Pee Wee Parker. He wasn't fighting at the junior lightweight limit. He was fighting at about 136 pounds. He took a real leathering for 4 or 5 rounds and managed to hold out against Pee Wee Parker in the later rounds and just snatched the decision.
I tell you what, I've seen Pee Wee Parker fight a lot, and he is quite a fighter, and he's one of those sneaky guys. I mean, you don't think he's there, and all of a sudden he'll hit you with that 5 punches, and you don't even know what state you're in.
And you're gone.
And you are gone. Hey, Brian is starting to get the sharpness back again. He was on his toes, bobbing and weaving away from Frankie Mitchell early on, maybe letting Frankie punch early in the round to get him a little tired, and now he's starting to capitalize, but still a tough round to score.
Frankie Mitchell trying a little right uppercut there.
Brian says, no, you don't, and stepped away from it.
Those ramrod lefts, of course, Sam, those ramrod lefts, they do take their toll. The face starts to feel red and puffy. It's not nice to have that push in your face all the time.
It is not. I have no gut feeling on that round, Robin, whatsoever. I'm going to have to hedge my bet and go even because I didn't see either fighter really take advantage again. So we're still dead even on the unofficial cards.
Very close round, I think 10-10. Over here in the Frankie Mitchell corner, working on that left eye.
A little swelling. Eli Aliato coming over to eating some more pasta over here in Italy. It is swelling there in that left eye. That could be a problem.
Well, the Mitchell punches, they're coming through onto that eye quite often.
Right hand is there. I thought that was a very interesting round. When we go back and kind of dissect this fight on tape, and I'm sure it will be seen hundreds of times by all of us, you'll see the change, almost a step up in the action by Brian Mitchell in the 4th and 5th rounds. And then you'll see Mitchell, Brian, the champion, suddenly getting on his horse, kind of walking away from Frankie Mitchell, and then standing and fighting about midway through the round on. A very interesting round in round 7 of this championship fight, and the bell sounds for round 8. And even on the unofficial cards, 3 judges scoring at ringside. Mr. Luciano, the referee, not one of the scorers, as he is the third man in the ring in this world title fight tonight from Italy.
Well, it's going to be any question of Brian Mitchell's fitness and the ability and durability to go on. It's going to be from now onwards. This is where Brian normally likes it, but he's taking a few shots there. Some good shots on the chin there from Frankie Mitchell, coming right through onto Brian Mitchell.
Is this the same guy that was fighting the first 2 rounds as Brian Mitchell? Is that the same guy that was
I think it is, Sam.
Wow, what a turn of events here for him.
Frankie Mitchell also determined to step up the gas, pressing forward onto Brian. He's getting some good shots through. His left also going through onto Mitchell's face.
Now, let's bring in another factor. Are you ready for this one? We are now at a very nice altitude as Brian Mitchell on top of Frankie Mitchell. Frankie Mitchell trains in Philadelphia at sea level. Of course, in Johannesburg, Brian Mitchell enjoys the height, and we are in the altitude. Could that take its toll later on in this fight?
Well, Brian Mitchell should certainly feel better about the altitude. He's used to sipping in that thin air. Mitchell getting in some very good shots. In the last 30 seconds have been all Mitchell. He's really put the pressure onto Frankie Mitchell. Hit him some good shots. Frankie Mitchell must be wondering, what am I going to do again? I've got to come out. Really got to get to work and pummel this man, Brian.
Frankie Mitchell again. Good, steady fighter out of Philadelphia. Came in here, made the champion look rather poor in the first couple of rounds. The champion rebounded in the mid-rounds. And now in round number 8, which, by the way, is where the other 2 fights tonight ended, Brian Mitchell may have regained that championship style, but Frankie won't let him gain it easily.
Momentarily there, Sam, in this round, I thought I saw Frankie Mitchell wobble slightly from a little punch there from Brian.
Right over the ropes. Caught a left hand there that could have done it. Another combination by the champion. Now right hand by Frankie Mitchell. Just glanced off the chin that time of the champion Brian Mitchell. It is not fun inside the ropes, folks. They are feeling some pain. What a fun fight to watch with 2 great warriors doing battle here in Italy.
Well, whatever happens with the result of this fight, Sam, it'll be interesting to know how Brian feels about the way Frankie Mitchell dealt with him, came at him, because I don't think it's the way he expected in the end.
Robin, you picked up a point early on. The first round, the second round, Frankie Mitchell was doing a lot of switching. He came from the southpaw and hurt Brian. Now he's staying strictly right hand. I'm a little suspect of not going on the switch for Frankie Mitchell that gave Brian some trouble early on.
Yeah, we haven't seen it for 6 rounds now.
Frankie Mitchell in these closing seconds of this, the 8th round, maybe trying to steal this back. The champion possibly has got the round in his corner with an even round coming to this, the 8th round. Frankie indeed coming on strong, but here comes the champion back. A right hand.
Great punch there from Brian Mitchell.
And there's the bell as they exchange punches as the bell sounds. The referee getting in between them, and 2 of the best punches of the night may have been thrown after the bell sounded. Both fighters now exchanging sportsmanship, and
I think Brian Mitchell is more angry than his namesake Frankie Mitchell. That's unusual for Brian.
I tell you, Brian Mitchell wins that round, not before a war, and has taken a slight lead on the unofficial card here in this defense of his title.
It
And
certainly
listen
was
to
a
the
cracking
crowd
round.
buzz. Wow.
Cracking round there, Sam. Great round of boxing. You see that in the reaction replay. Mitchell ducking, coming round, dusting there, lefts and rights to Frankie Mitchell.
Those are some great punches, and particularly that one. Frankie Mitchell off the ropes. Now the bell sounds about right here. You see the seconds up. Now the referee reacted very slowly, and look at him exchanging punches here. But the bell sounded about, I'd say, roughly 6 to 7 seconds before the referee got in there.
I think that's one of those incidents where we nearly had no referee. I think he could have got cuffed by both boxers.
I'm glad I'm safely over here with you, Robin. Wow, what a turn of events in the 8th round as again the champion Brian Mitchell again comes back to life. Frankie Mitchell regains his composure, and here they come out as they get some seconds out, momentarily stopping the clock. And this is round 9 of the title fight.
Both fighters determined to get on with this. Some real action is going to come in this round. Even there, Frankie Mitchell hitting on the break.
By the way, for that first fight of the night with the defending champion, welcome Anchita winning his successful defense of his title in an 8th round knockout over Jerry Lopez. The scorecards when it ended in the 8th round were 70-64 on 2 of the cards and 70-63. So Anchita had a great lead and then finished it off in the 8th round.
Well, this fight that we have in the ring with Mitchell versus Mitchell is sure a lot closer than that, Sam. This is a very close fight indeed. It'll go either way at this stage.
Now we've got the champion Brian Mitchell slightly ahead on the unofficial card. I love for the fans to score at home because that's the fun of this. Try to count the punches, try to do ever how you would like to score it. Which one of the fighters is more aggressive? A defensive fighter sometimes will not draw the the great point score total and a good offensive fighter will, but score it at home. Have some fun with it.
First 30 seconds of this round, both fighters not really connecting. They're kind of dusting away, catching the air, not much going through.
Brian Mitchell now getting the acknowledgement of the referee that the punch by Frankie Mitchell might have been a tad low.
I was wondering, Sam, whether both fighters have decided to take this round off.
It is not a competitive round, even though, again, the jab of Brian Mitchell getting in and out exchange. Both fighters getting big punches in.
Of course, as a commentator, as soon as you say that, the action comes.
All right. Brian Mitchell, you can see every time they clinch, he really turns that right eye totally away. But of course, tonight it's interesting. The cut is over the left eye. But he's still protecting that right eye, as Frankie Mitchell lands a right hand. Brian lands one right back. Good round. About 45 seconds to go in the round. Give us take a second or two, and the fact the referee stopped it just as the bell sounded to get one of the stools out. Uppercut by Brian Mitchell. A countering left hand by Frankie Mitchell. And Brian Mitchell back with a combination.
Italian crowd loving this, rising to their feet, seeing these punches going in. They're enjoying this excellent world title attempt here. Of course, don't forget, coming up shortly on October 11th on Emirates, Sugar Boy Bellinger and Saki Horn, the SA lightweight title. And of course, tomorrow night, the ATP Swiss indoor men's single tennis final coming up on Emirates tomorrow night, Sunday.
And the hits just keep coming on, and they do here in the ninth round. This was an even round till about a minute ago, and the champion Brian Mitchell threw some very meaningful punches and may have stolen the round of the scorecard of the judges. Slightly ahead is the champion right now as he's back in his corner. And they may be feeling a little bit more confident, not overly so, a little more confident the way the champion has certainly rebounded himself in the early rounds.
Well, I think both these fighters realize they're both in with a very good chance at this stage, Sam. There's 3 rounds to go. One of them has got to really put the action in, step up the gas to steal that decision from the judges. It's very close at this stage. Mitchell in with a very good opponent, far better than we thought. The weight problem doesn't seem to have weakened him. He's still trading punches. There's still some venom behind those punches. Brian Mitchell taking 30 seconds off here and there, then getting in. Corner telling him, come on, Brian, just keep it up. I'm sure Brian's going to step up this action now. Let's see, 10, 11, 12. He's got 9 minutes to keep that title for the 11th time.
Can you imagine a gunslinger strapping on the leather, stepping into the street now for his 11th time since September 27th of 1986 when Alfredo Wayne fell in Johannesburg via the 10-round knockout by now the WBA junior lightweight champion Brian Mitchell. And for 11 consecutive times, including tonight, he's in the ring to defend that he is the best. Round 10 is underway. Frankie Mitchell in the red, trying to step up the action still for another time. Good sharp left hands that time by Frankie Mitchell. Brian doing a good job of slipping a lot of punches here as they're in the 10th. Frankie Mitchell now, Robin, is really blinking the right eye as if he may have caught a glove in the eye, and it too is now starting to swell a little.
These first flurries of this round, Sam, neither fighter really getting much through. Now they're starting to connect. A lot of air shots, now they're starting to connect. Once again, it's going to be a very difficult one for the judges, I think, at this stage.
It is indeed.
The 2.5 rounds left can go either way.
Keep in mind, back early on, we had a 10-10 even round back in the 7th. And Frankie Mitchell scored with 2 big right hands that could have swayed the judges, which could have thrown it right back even. And now this 2-point unofficial lead on our card by Brian Mitchell could be almost academic the way these guys are going now, and come right into the wire to the 3 judges. Frankie Mitchell seems to be looking a little bit more towards his corner, something he had not done. When he clinches, he looks to his corner more to say, hey, I'm doing what you told me to do, but it's not working right now.
It sure is one of the hardest fights Brian Mitchell's had for some time here. This is a good opponent. Mitchell turning away, just looking towards the ground, keeping that eye protected. Mitchell has lost that sharpness. We noticed in the early part of the fight he lost a bit of sharpness, came back well. This round seems to have lost that bit of needle. Frankie Mitchell also, there's not much going on. There's a lot of arms flailing, Sam, but not real much meat. But there's the right from Brian Mitchell.
But what's happening is that Frankie Mitchell has now been relegated to fight the champion's fight. And that's in close quarters. Brian with a looping left hand after he caught a couple of body shots. This fight is going to be, this round, should I say, will be won or lost in the final seconds of the round. As now a warning to Brian Mitchell for holding Frank Mitchell down.
I can't see why a fighter would hold another fighter onto him, pull him against the ropes. You're the one who suffers because you've got to carry his weight.
Sure. Good combinations by Brian Mitchell. He's trying to get this round. Frankie Mitchell trying to fight back. And there's another punch that's straight a little low again by Frankie Mitchell. And now both eyes of the challenger are really swelling. And there's the bell to end round 10. And Brian Mitchell back to the stool with a confident 10th round.
I think the last minute or so for Brian was a good one there. Still anybody's fight, Sam, very close.
I have it now moving out slightly in favor of Brian Mitchell, up by 3. I'm always a little hesitant to get one too wide when it is a very even and good fight. But I do have the champion, Brian Mitchell, fighting his fight and doing what he has to do to defend his title tonight.
Of course, we're not the judges, and the judges
Absolutely.
sat in different positions around the ring. They'll see different punches we won't see, and they will see punches, or not see punches that we did see.
See, first of all, I judge a fight on the fighter that I feel takes advantage offensively. I love a defensive fighter, but I don't think he wins a lot of championships by being a good defensive fighter. He has to be offensive. And what happens also, Robin, when I'm scoring, if I hear the fans kind of getting into it with a couple of quick flurries and you see one good solid punch, it does sway me a little. And I can't help believe that the judges have to be a little bit human in that same way.
And of course, to take the title from a champion, you've got to really go for it.
11th round of a scheduled 12-rounder world title fight. They wrestle a bit. And the champion, Brian Mitchell, in the colors of South Africa against the red shorts of Frankie Mitchell of Philadelphia of the USA.
Don't forget this great fight brought to you by Nashua, saving you time, saving you money, putting you first.
Oh, what a great job Ace Murata has done with that cut over the left eye of Brian Mitchell. It looked as if it could be a real problem. You may recall coming as early as the second round. But he has completely closed it, and the right eye, they've kept the swelling down on the right eye of Brian Mitchell where problems have developed.
Well, even though you've got Mitchell ahead on your scorecard, if he's really going to clinch it, he's got to do something now very, very positive in the last 4.5 minutes of this fight.
He really can't allow Frankie to get back into it and take it to the 12th round, where if he steals the round, it could be even closer and could sway the judges. I always love fighters when they talk about, I'm going to take it out of the hands of the judges. In a fight against Frankie Mitchell, you might have thought, well, Brian Mitchell has a chance to knock him out. After you see Frankie Mitchell fight for 2 rounds, you say, uh-oh, this one's going to go a long, long way.
Well, of course, we can see the concern on the face of promoter Cedric Kushner, who's proudly up and down, trying to get a look at the judges' scorecard.
The IBF Promoter of the Year, Cedric Kushner, bringing championship boxing to Italy. And, of course, a great contingent of local promoters who have helped bring this championship fight to an area that's right in the thick of the 1998 securing of the Winter Olympic Games.
I think we're in for a real grandstand now of a 12th round. As we come to the end of this 11th round. Not much happening in this 11th round here, Sam. We thought we were going to see far more action from each fighter. I think they're all saving it up now. Brian may think he's slightly ahead. He comes forward a little bit here. Frankie Mitchell looking a bit tired, but still capable of pulling something out. Brian Mitchell trying to put in the action here.
Harold Volbrick, along with Malcolm Garrett, and also working in that corner is Murphy Griffin. They're encouraging the champion to come on. Mitchell, Frankie throwing a couple of pretty good punches there, but right back comes the champion, Brian Mitchell. Both fighters have landed some good punches in this round.
Neither fighter, of course, been down. Brian Mitchell only ever been down twice in his professional career, and that's by the same fighter, Joey Rivera. And the same punch as well.
Got a draw with Rivera, one of the 2 on his card. Good left hand again, right on that swollen right eye of Frankie Mitchell. As they wrestle into the ropes. You know, I just hesitated to talk about the altitude situation, but I do have to believe that in these closing rounds that Brian Mitchell is now taking advantage of fighting here at this altitude and has won another round.
Well, I think he just pulled it away there. The last flurry in the 15 seconds. I think whilst we're waiting for the last round to come up, Sam, we must ask ourselves now, does Brian want to carry on after this fight? He's probably not looking as sharp as we've seen him before. Lopez is going to go up another gear for the unification. Okay, great money, but should he risk himself anymore?
It'll be very interesting to see that. As a matter of fact, they're anticipating, obviously, the biggest payday for Brian Mitchell. The fight, more than likely, we're talking in subjectives here because it'll be up to those with the powers that be. It would be in Sacramento, California, where last week for MNAT and the other folks, we did a great fight with Lopez along with Paez, and he had more than 16,000 screaming fans there, which would be in favor of Lopez, and a lion's den for Brian Mitchell to have to go fight in. But let's not jump the cart ahead of the horse. He's got to get through Frankie Mitchell here in round 12. The champion, Brian Mitchell. What a marvelous career. 29 years old, 5'6", came in right at the weight he wanted to. Champion Frankie Mitchell, and we're underway in the 12th and final round.
Frankie Mitchell's got to really get in here if he wants to wrest this title away, if he wants to really convince the judges. Those are wavering on the edge. Brian Mitchell's also going to put the action up to prove he's the real champ. He's going to keep this title for the 11th time.
Brian Mitchell, 3 up on our cards, unofficial. The judges will score it. Again, the left eye. A problem for Frankie Mitchell. The right is also swollen. And Frankie Mitchell coming on top of the champions. Brian Mitchell, very lethargic. Round 1, almost an even. Could have even gone to Frankie Mitchell in the first round. We gave it even. Then 2 very good rounds by Frankie Mitchell, even to the point of opening a cut on the champion. But since that time, Brian Mitchell has taken the bit in his teeth, and he has fought well.
So close this fight, Sam. Even though we got Brian Mitchell slightly ahead, very close indeed.
Good look at the swollen eyes of Frankie Mitchell as he comes right in on top of Brian, the champion. Underneath where he had to be, under that 72-inch jab. As the referee got in late and almost got clocked by a wild right hand by Frankie Mitchell.
Our judges here tonight, Mr. Vasquez from Spain, Mr. Cadeo from Italy, and Mr. Sucre from Venezuela. They've got a difficult job ahead.
A very difficult job indeed. Because almost virtually, I would say at least 6 to 7 of the rounds came down to who would score the last punch in the round to win it. That's how close many of the rounds were tonight. I think the ones really that Frankie Mitchell won decisively, and also Brian Mitchell won decisively, but there's still, with those 4 or 5 rounds, it could have gone either way. Frankie Mitchell back on his heels now. Brian Mitchell on his toes and borrowing in on maybe a successful defense of another title.
Both fighters flailing away here. The odd punch getting through, but not much. Brian Mitchell managed to slip most. Frankie Mitchell also managed to slip. Just catching the gloves there of Brian Mitchell. Frankie Mitchell's glove, in fact, coming looser. The bandage there coming loose. The referee may stop it just for a second to do it, but maybe not because it's the last round.
By the way, a fighter in a WBA championship fight can indeed be saved in the last round as the referee tries to get that tape back on without stopping action.
Referee Lucia sets in, pushing him away. Brian Mitchell takes a couple of shots there, a couple of lefts there going in from Frankie Mitchell. Mitchell realizing maybe the danger, he's got to really impress these judges in the last couple of seconds. Just get those shots through to make sure he keeps his title for the 11th time. But such a close fight, Sam.
Brian Mitchell fighting his fight, though, and there's the bell, and the fight is over. And both fighters feel they've done what they had to do as Harold Goldbrick raises the man he thinks has won. The other side of the coin, Frankie Mitchell's handler certainly congratulating him, as this has been one whale of a fight. Unofficially on our cards, Brian Mitchell with the lead by as much as 3 to 4 points. But who's to know what the judges will officially score in this championship fight? As you take a look at a man that really kind of gave his home country and those that have followed him here to Italy a little scare early on. Brian Mitchell, again you see the cut over the left eye, and Ace Murata. We'll give him a gold star tonight because he closed up that gash over the left eye and kept this from the second round on of becoming a fight that was in danger of stopping because of a possible cut, and did a super job in stopping it. But again, the champion Brian Mitchell of Johannesburg has come on and successfully defended his title. If, of course, our unofficial cards are correct, or does Frankie Mitchell come on and steal it away here in Iostra, Italy? A host city that has done a marvelous job in hosting us. It's been just a great stay here. And of course, Robin Welch is up in the ring waiting for the announcement of the scorecards. And again, we will be at the mercy of the scoring in Italian, so we'll have to wait just a moment, as we'll have to try to get those written down for us. I do not speak enough Italian to know what the scoring might be. But again, on the scoring, we'll try to get those written down for you as they're announced in Italian, and we can pass those on for you. Brian Mitchell, again, after a possible even round in round one, lost the next two on our unofficial card as Frankie Mitchell really came on behind that left jab and threw some very meaningful combinations. But from that time on, in the fourth and fifth rounds in particular, Brian Mitchell almost shifted into another gear. An even sixth round, and then from that time on, the champion pretty well showing a shutout and possibly coming up for the defense of his title as the scores have been announced. And the Italian announcer will make the announcement here before this crowd in Italy.
Score for George Vasquez, Brian Mitchell 117, 117. Frankie Mitchell 113, 113.
So the announcement of the scores, and again on my scorecard, after a 10-point round by Brian Mitchell in the 12th round, I had it 118 to 113, and that score was 17-13.
116. Frank Mitchell 113, 113.
So there's a split on the card as Frankie Mitchell comes up.
Brian Mitchell 116, 116. Frank Mitchell 113, 113.
So Brian Mitchell on all three of the scorecards wins it here tonight. And again, we had it by 5 points. Two of the judges by 4, the other by 3. And Brian Mitchell successfully defends his title here tonight for the 11th time, thus tying the legendary Todd Morgan back in 1925-29, who had 11 successful defenses. And now, is there a fight coming up? And that's exactly what Cedric Kushner is talking to Brian about, to unify at least 2 more of the alphabet soup of the junior lightweight division with, of course, Tony Lopez. Here's Robin Welch.
Brian Mitchell, a great fight there. Get your belt first.
Brian will get the belt and officially put on here by the WBA officials. Antonio Bandini of Italy will strap on the belt for still another time. Here's Robin
Brian,
again.
a great fight there, a very tough fight for you.
Thanks, Robin. First of all, I want to give the credit once again to the Lord Jesus for looking after myself and my opponent tonight. Frankie Mitchell proved why he was unbeaten in 25 fights. He came to win, and he got up for this title fight. But I proved that I'm the best junior lightweight in the world.
You look very tough, but also in moments you seem to us you weren't as sharp as you thought you would be.
He was a strong fighter. When I started getting going, he came back at me, and that puts you off a bit. So I held back a few times. I hurt my right hand at one time, but I felt good. I was in excellent condition, and it's great to beat an unbeaten American fighter.
Did you feel that you hurt him at all?
I hurt him a couple of times, but not enough to finish him off. He's a very strong, capable fighter.
Brian, so where are we going in the future? 11th title defense successful. Is Lopez the one you want to do, or are you going to pack it in?
Robin, I think I've done everything in the junior lightweight division expected of me. I've written the history books now with my 11th defense. Myself and Todd Morgan being the only guys in the history of junior lightweight division to have 11 defenses. And the only name that comes to mind now if I fight again is Tony Lopez. If Tony Lopez thinks he's the best in the world, he's got to beat Brian Mitchell first.
Rodney Berman, you're Brian's advisor. You must be very happy about tonight.
Yes, I'd say he's a great champion, standing as another great champion to be. There is one fight for Brian Mitchell. It's Tony Lopez or no
Okay, early next year then, 20 has Brian Mitchell. So with the news then, welcome Achie to retain his world title, and this man next to me, 11th successful title defense. We return you to the studio.